What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing a stock up, stock down, stock report for weeks 8 through 11. As you guys will see, I've totally changed up the graphics because honestly, I think it looks a lot better. It's pretty much based very similarly to my rankings, my positional rankings, which based on the amount of studying I've been doing with you guys on Discord, so if you guys are not already there, feel free to join because I'm doing these hangouts a lot more often because it's fun. Honestly, it's more entertaining to do this with you guys talking to me anyway than just for me to do it alone. So it's just a lot more fun. So we're watching tape together, looking over stats together. If you guys don't pay $300 a year to PFF, then you guys get to hop in and get to watch some pretty cool stuff. So if you guys are new, again, would love for you guys to stick around and then, of course, join that Discord. There's a lot more fun stuff that I'm planning to do there. But without further ado, let's kick right into the video with the guys who are going to stock up. First guy is Kendra Miller. This guy's been popping off for weeks and weeks, but it's about damn time I started putting him on the list. Not officially graded just yet, but he still is absolutely phenomenal overall. I do love what he brings to the table, and he has that big play ability to him. Obviously had a 75-yard touchdown against Texas. Number 2, not really in a ranked order, Graham Barton. So again, watched him because of the fact he's in the PFF top 100. Totally agree. I put him there at 80, which honestly, I'm going to reference that when it comes to the next mock draft that I do because it's pretty entertaining. I think they might both be at 80 for me in PFF. Super consistent guy. I think he's definitely worth around that 80th overall selection. I think he's a nice early third, mid-third type of guy. You know, again, super consistent, solid athlete. Again, nothing to write home about, but definitely something in a league that, you know, we're lacking some consistent offensive line play. Could be totally worth it. Next, got Olusegun. So I watched maybe a couple plays of him so far at Michigan before I did my tape dive with you guys. And it was like, okay, you know, surprisingly, those plays were the ones where he actually messed up. But when I continued watching him, one, I fell in love with him from UVA. I talked about him obviously since, like, I believe the end of the draft. I already heard about Olusegun being a nice transfer. So he's obviously a grad transfer. He's a little bit older. 32 might be not where he rests at the final spot. Again, this changes every single week. But when it comes down to it, he's so consistent, very athletic. When he pulls, oh my God, like this guy moves. You guys will see there's a couple players on this list. If I see an offensive lineman hauling ass or a defensive lineman hauling ass, which possibly the next slide we're going to talk about one, you're going to probably spark my interest. Because I'm just a huge fan of athletic players because, again, I think technicalities can be trained as long as you're not being a complete dumbass. So, you know, it is what it is, but Olusegun, super consistent, like, again, really good athlete as well. I think that he has a very solid foundation. I will say his anchor is a little bit suspect, but when I do my offensive line breakdown, I'll give you a little bit more of a breakdown on that. Then Luke Whippler. So, yeah, I've been talking about him. I've already featured him in my top 50, but I had yet to put him on the list. Watched him. He's super consistent as well. We have some really good centers that are popping up in this class when I was saying it's not a good class for centers. Steve Avila, another really good player, but I thought he was actually quite underwhelming as like a nice early 4th round pick, but that really wouldn't have made the list anyway. There's of course going to be guys who don't actually make the list that deserve to. It's tough. With the amount of work that does go into creating graphics like this, even though I simplified it to pretty much you get to see the college, the player, and where they're moving, which at the end of the day really is what matters. It still is a time-consuming process. I was with you guys on Discord for the past 2 hours doing this type of stuff. It's a lot of busy work. Honestly, I can't wait to be able to automate it or give that job to somebody else in the future. But for now, get to enjoy making and customizing this myself. Regardless, all that aside, Latu. Again, I talk about Joey Porter having these Kevin Durant-style arms where, you know, his hands are below his knees. Latu. I mean, this guy could be standing straight up and his hands will probably touch the ground. I don't know what his actual wingspan is, but it's going to be absolutely insane. So he right now is, I think, top 10 to top 15 in pass rush win rate. And that's not pressure rate. And he has, I think, over 40 pressures as well in the year. But he's been lighting it up. I just think that when he makes contact with an offensive lineman, you don't see him make very much of an impact. Again, I talk about that impact of the line of scrimmage. Do you make the offensive lineman move? Because you're not always going to win the rep. But if you can collapse the pocket, you can do a good enough job at least altering the comfortability of the quarterback, maybe forcing him to make a read he doesn't exactly want to do, or feel pressure that might not exactly get to him, but he still feels it in some way, shape, or form, impacting the play. So he doesn't bring that, but he's a very good athlete. And then again, he's super productive. Obviously, I think of him as that third round range. I think it's perfectly fine. Then we got Darnell Wright. He moved from left tackle to right, and I guess no pun intended, but he has been doing a phenomenal job this year. Again, he went up against Alabama, against Georgia, and he let up, if I'm not mistaken, 1 pressure versus Alabama, 0 versus Georgia, and that's pretty damn spectacular. Again, like, you're going up against Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, and you're letting up 0 pressures. Now, he's not perfect, but given the tackle class, given the fact that pretty much none of these guys are perfect, you have some room to breathe for sure. And putting him at 33 definitely doesn't seem to be too much of a stretch. He's been performing at a very high level. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Next, this is a guy I want to talk about. So this is going to be a big Discord guy. So again, don't miss out on it because it's awesome. But Jerzon Newton, you guys just need to watch him play. So there's pretty much like one consistent game out there where you get to watch all of his snaps. But man, I'm telling you, it's against Minnesota too. So you get to see him go up against guys like John Michael Schmitz, who's supposed to be like a fringe first, second round talent. This guy, legitimately top speed. I mean, he might run a 4.7 40 at 300 pounds. He might be running a 4.68 40. Like, it is ridiculous. This guy hauls ass in a straight line. It is incredible. And he has such great finesse when being able to, like, you'll see him maybe not win a rep, but by the end of the play, the guy's not blocking him because his hands are chopped. He's thrown aside. He's like, I believe he plays edge too for some reason. Like, you see him like almost in wide 9 at 300 pounds, 6'2", but you see that an offensive lineman is in a zone blocking scheme, and Jerzon straight up grabs him right here and just throws the guy's ass into another dimension. It's incredible. I love it. Like, just these guys who are hyper athletes who just demonstrate that raw power, just super incredible. Because if you're in the right situation, you build your polish. You can't develop athleticism the way you can polish. And this guy, it's insane. 34, again, might be a little bit of an overreaction, but I just love it. He's right now graded out as my interior defensive lineman too. So it's not that crazy. But he has great size, great versatility, and I do love what I see. I want him to be a little more consistent in getting the pressure there, which he records an insane amount of pressures. Don't get me wrong. But like when you see the pressure actually legitimately affecting the quarterback. So we're continuing here. Christian Haynes. So heard about this guy. I've been talking about him quite a bit. Hyper athlete. I have him as my number 1 graded athletic lineman. Like, not overall, but in terms of athleticism, he got that 9 out of 10. And y'all know me. I am very particular. I'm a kind of an asshole when it comes to grading these players. I love to give people poor grades because at the end of the day, in the NFL, there's 22 guys who are essentially playing at once. And if you're not on a 53-man roster, there's just not very much room for subpar play or even par play. But Christian Haynes, ridiculous athlete, like insane level. This guy's straight up hauling ass downfield. It's incredible. So I do like him a lot. I really do. But he does need a lot of that polish. So he loses reps. That's something I do consider as a big negative for him. But like, the inconsistency is almost a positive in this situation because you watch him play and it's like, okay, if you are better on 30% of these snaps, you're able to start in the NFL. But the issue is you have to get those 30% down to be at least able to start. But Christian Haynes, again, I love UConn. I don't know why. Whenever there's a UConn player, I'm a big fan of him. Travis Jones last year was a huge fan of him. So I think that Christian Haynes could definitely be one of those big risers, especially at the combine. Again, this guy's going to run like Jurgen's level of athleticism. Next, we got Tyree Wilson. Again, another super freak athlete, but he's a damn good player. I'm a big fan of him. I've been talking about him enough in the mock drafts. It's actually, I totally screwed up on the rank movement. That's the rank movement in the past week. The rank movement probably was like around 70 or 80 up to 14 over the past 3. So, I mean, that's still a drastic move up. I mean, I don't know why I'm pointing there. That's where I actually is there for you guys. He definitely is making a massive percentage increase on the rank just in the past week, let alone what he has done over the past 3. So, again, big fan of Tyree. He's awesome. Let me know what you guys think about this, because I'm starting to look at the graphics. I'm like, damn, I'm like wishing I put the size there. It'd be kind of fun. So I think without having as many graphics, it might just be a little bit more intriguing. Give me some feedback on that, guys, because I definitely think that might be a better move. I'll probably include it anyway. But I owe an apology to Nolan Smith. Last year, he definitely seemed like somebody who generally was ineffective against a lot of blocks, but I saw a lot more strength in terms of his arm power, and he was able to throw off guys, hand chop. He did a great job. Obviously, it's unfortunate about the injury, but I'm going to give credit where credit's due. He did a phenomenal job. Honestly, I think he tore his pec because of the fact that he loves to just throw dudes off, which, I mean, it's essentially a dumbbell fly. If you guys, go to the gym, it's pretty much a pec fly. So it makes sense why he might have torn it, because he uses his pec to throw guys a lot. That's okay. I think he'll come back. He'll be fine. Got to give credit where credit's due. I've definitely undersold Nolan Smith. He kind of feels like Nakobe Dean without the balance of the rest of his abilities. Kind of feels like the pass rushing version of Nakobe at 10 pounds heavier. So there's definitely a little bit of a lack of versatility for him. I would never trust him in coverage in my life. So that's, again, why I can't put him anywhere near the top like guys like PFF have him up there. Guys who are on watch for stock up right now, Anthony Richardson, he's still, if we're talking about Will Levis, I actually moved up Anthony a little bit as well, but not to the point where I'd put him on the list. He has been getting better. That's not saying much, but if we're talking about Will Levis, like PFF does, as a top 5 guy, I mean, come on. You're talking about big frame, big arm, big potential throws, makes mental errors, but, maybe doesn't have an elite surrounding cast. I mean, Anthony Richardson has some really good running backs. He has an offensive lineman here and there. He has better wide receivers, but he's multiple years younger. He has a stronger arm, and he's a better athlete. And he's, I think, bigger as well. So I genuinely don't understand why there's so much hate for one versus over the other. And I've seen people pop up in my comments talking about us white boys to putting Will Levis up there. And, obviously that's never been a factor. I look at a player as a player, not as anything. I never factor in stuff like that because I think that's absolutely fucking stupid. But I can understand where their confusion comes from because of the fact, when I started looking at it and holistically, I'm like, there's really not much of a differentiation between what Will Levis can bring to the table and what Anthony can. Anthony makes more simple mistakes, but he's had a lot less time to improve upon it. So I just got to stick my neck out there for Anthony Richardson, especially when Will Levis is getting all this love, because, there's a lot of hate for the people who love Will Levis, but there's not enough love for the people who still care about Anthony Richardson. So gotta give him a shout out. KJ Jefferson has about a 3-to-1 turnover worthy, or big time throw to turnover worthy play ratio. That's great. It's a big improvement upon what I've seen in the past. I do like that a lot from a guy who maybe is trying to play to become a backup quarterback in the NFL. And honestly, I think he definitely could at his size. He has a very nice frame, a good enough arm, and now he's improving on his decision making as well. Next for the stock down, Jacoby. Obviously, y'all know I was a huge fan of Jacoby, had him as my number 1 linebacker. I overreacted to a 1-game sample size because that's all I really could watch because there was only 1 game of him at linebacker for Michigan State. But he still is super athletic. He still has a crazy high ceiling. I didn't like him as an edge rusher, but as a hybrid, I certainly think he's a damn talented player. So I'm perfectly fine keeping him in that 42 range. Definitely a really good player. Will Levis, yes, finally had to talk about him. He's been dealing with turf toe. That's why I haven't dropped him past 62. Again, most other quarterbacks, I see you losing to Vanderbilt and then not even putting up 200 yards. I think it was like 129 or something. I'm probably dropping you down 100 spots, right? But I'm not going to do that just yet. Again, you're dealing with an injury, an inferior offensive line to even someone like Anthony Richardson. I mean, they've been one of the worst in college this year. And then there's not many great weapons for you. Which, to be fair, you have to start questioning because guys are in the transfer portal. They know the quarterbacks. Like, why aren't they choosing Will Levis if people believe he's that good of a talent? That's something I would actually like to pose, and that's how it just popped into my mind. Like, why didn't players want to play with Will Levis? It's a weird thing to think about. But, again, Will Levis certainly could be falling even further. Osiris Torrance is next. I overreacted to a one-game sample size versus Georgia because I watched him versus Tennessee. I was like, okay, I'm starting to get a little bit worried about him. And then I saw him versus Georgia. I was like, oh, crap, this guy's going to be tanking. But I watched him versus Missouri every snap, so just like I do every time with the offensive line. Like, I will never, ever, ever resort to highlights for anybody because I think that's absolutely stupid. Like, I don't want to preach to you guys that I actually watch tape if I don't. So I watched every snap of Osiris in 3 games this year, and he performed mediocrely in one of them. He performed poorly in one of them, and then he performed very well against Missouri. So, again, got to give a tip of my cap right there because he did some phenomenal high-level plays. But again, those negative plays are still out there. And you might say, oh, well, he's going up against Jalen Carter. Of course he's not going to play as well. Yes, but there are players, at least 90%, if not 100% of Jalen Carter's ability right now in the NFL that you're going to play week by week. And you have to perform well against those guys. And he got driven like crazily back. It was like we were in the Discord laughing our asses off because of how bad he got beat. So definitely a point of concern there, but I do feel a lot more comfortable after seeing him bounce back versus Missouri. Then Laden Robinson, he's been on this list a billion times. I mean, this guy is straight butt cheeks. He's allowed 30 pressures this year. He's almost allowing 5 of them a game at this point. He's just really bad. Really bad. And you see it. Like, I originally started including him because of the fact that I saw him perform poorly. And I wasn't even backing it up with the statistics yet. Now, I know he plays poorly. And the statistics back it up. Not great. Not great at all. He's like 1,000 times worse than Kenyon Green. And I wasn't even that high on Kenyon Green. And Kenyon Green's not even playing that well. So, you combine all those facts together, not looking too good for Laden. Then Jalen Duncan, y'all know how I feel about this man. I went in, I was like, okay, you know what? Coming into the year, he was about a late third, probably around that 80 to 90 range. Then I started watching the year, and I was like, okay, I got to start putting him on the watch for stock down. Michigan game, I was like, okay, watch him for stock down. Because I want to see how he bounced back. And I rewatched him because I started being like his biggest hater. Like, he's in the first round, right? And the thing is, I ended up being even lower, like way lower on him than I was last year. I feel like he's regressed. And I don't want to see regression from a college tackle. And significant regression. It's not even the stats where he's letting up a ton of pressures each week. It's the fact that the way he's losing is going to easily translate to the NFL. Like, he's going to lose the exact same way, if not worse, at the NFL level. There's somebody who I could include upon in this list as well, in this similar category where it's like, you're probably going to get beat the same way at the next level. And that is Javon Foster, someone who I do have a very big affinity for. I do love Javon, but I mean, I saw again versus Tennessee, not versus Tennessee, I think it was even versus Abilene Christian. It was against Florida was the game that definitely clicked through to me again. But this inside spin move, I don't know why. It's 3 games where he's been beat by that same move. Like, if you cannot learn from your mistakes, I'm genuinely concerned. Again, how much is Missouri's offensive line coach talent? Like, how great is he? I don't know. But Jalen Duncan assuredly is the most overrated player I've ever seen. Like, honestly. Cam Ward falls. He's been having a bit of a struggled time. You know, he has some great potential, but he needs to put a little bit of work in. I mean, putting him as a 3rd-round pick certainly isn't out of the realm of possibility. I do certainly like him. And then on watch to be on stock down. Chris Abrams-Drain just has a couple plays on tape where it's like, okay, maybe you're not a top 32 player in the class. Again, y'all know this list is not based off of who's doing well, who's doing poorly. And maybe a lot of them are like that, and in essence, it's true. But this is based on my big board because a lot of times I might be lower on a player and then he performs poorly. Of course, I'm not going to drop him. I thought he wasn't that good. But Chris Abrams-Drain, I thought of him as a top 32 player. Still is at the moment, but teetering on dropping him to the 40s, if not 50s. Just because, again, size, and then he has some plays where it's like, come on, man. And then Robert Scott, again, he's had some pretty bad games. I would say the stats lie a little bit. He's allowed a lot more pressures than I think he has actually. Like, I do think Jordan Travis or the other backup quarterback definitely caused some of those, but still, he lets up pressures. It's a little bit frustrating because I wanted to stick my neck out for him as well as a second rounder. Just not there yet, but he's still in that 90 zone as well. That's perfectly fine. So that's going to be the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.